Alrighty, traders. This is Blake Morrow. You are listening to the Daily Roundup webinar. So not a lot's happening other than the NASDAQ continues to press higher, but the rest of the markets are staying fairly quiet. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information that I've heard from some of the traders that I've traded with in the past about dollar demand coming into month and quarter end. The comments basically are, not as big of demand as you would expect, or not as big of outsized demand as you would expect, because equity markets, even though the NASDAQ's up right now, you look at equities like the S&P, we haven't moved a whole lot this month. So, if you're talking about the month of June, I mean, we're up just a little bit. So there's a little bit of US dollar selling demand supposed to come in for end of month, end of quarter, but nothing like hugely reported. A lot of times, you might get an indication that there's going to be major selling of dollars or major buying of dollars at the end of month, end of quarter. But I just wanted to report to you that there hasn't been any reports of that from the traders that I know. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't get big moves. I also want to tell you guys that it doesn't mean that we're not going to get, big selling or buying demand at the end of the month, end of the quarter here in the next couple of days. It's not, no one's hearing of anything yet. All right. So I just wanted to fill you guys in with that and let you guys know. Now, as far as the currency market goes, it's pretty quiet. I mean, you have the dollar that's a little firmer, but you could see the euro's trying to break down out of this pennant. We've got a lot of that happening. Like you see the Aussies trying to break down out of the pennant, or out of the channel. Kiwi, same thing. See Kiwi's trying to break lower. Sterling's a little weaker, but remember, we're still holding above the 618 retracement. So not a huge amount of movement today that I'm seeing. But one thing, do you know what has my attention right now? I'm going to ask you guys to see if you know what's got my attention right at this moment. Anything has my attention? What do you think? Lorraine says the CAD. Austin says stocks. Craig says euros. Actually, what has my attention right at this moment in time is crude oil, because I am short Norway and I'm short Canada. So I'm looking at crude. All right. So let me get over. Where the hell did it go? There it is. Okay. So crude, this is as it stands. Okay. As it stands. And it's only going to be an outside day candle. That means the wicks on the current candle are bigger than the wicks, or are wider on both sides than the wicks in the previous candle. So that's an outside candle. Now, it's not going to be a bearish engulfing candle, because the open on today's candle is lower than the high or the close on the previous candle. So even if you zoom in, let me try to zoom in here for you guys. Okay. Yeah, you can see it right there. Well, maybe it is. It's damn close. No, I think it's lower. See the red? I mean, so slightly. I don't know. God dang. It didn't look as close actually when the candle was smaller, but maybe it is pretty damn close. So the close here was 74.27. Okay. 74.27. The open price, it opened exactly where it closed. That's interesting. So there was no gaps. That's interesting. This could actually be a bearish engulfing candle. I guess that would qualify. Bearish engulfing or an outside day, if it closes down here like this, regardless, it's going to be bearish. Whenever you have an outside candle, and it's, we could sit here and argue if it's a bearish engulfing or not. It really is a bearish reversal, is what it is. So if this candle closes below here, right? we could pretty much classify it as a bearish engulfing. Regardless, that is a reversal candle. So as a reversal candle, you start thinking, okay, well, how's that translate into currencies? Well, that might mean continued Norwegian weakness. And again, with the euro weaker, that's just giving the US dollar Norwegian krona kind of a double whammy to the upside. And then also Canadian weakness. Okay. That would be the two that I'd be thinking right off the top of my head. Now I'm short dollar Canadian, or excuse me, long some dollar Canadian, short Canadian dollars. I was short Canadian yen. Okay. But I've taken a little bit of the Canadian yen off the table and I added New Zealand Canadian. Because last week, for those of you guys who are in the chat room, you might remember this. Last week, I was looking for this. Okay. Somebody brought it to my attention. Oh, a couple of the guys that I used to trade with over at Gelos, they're like, hey, what do you think of the New Zealand Canadian? Actually, two guys separately. One guy trades in Chicago, the other guy trades in Connecticut. Two guys separately asked me about this, and we were trading about right here, right about there, 87.90 something, 86.90 something. And I was thinking to myself, man, if it drops back down to this breakout point, I'd be interested in it. And it did. So it dropped back down to, the 70s, 86.70. So I picked up a little bit. And at the same time, I closed some of my Canadian yen because I don't want to be too aggressive, obviously, because this market's not paying. It's not paying any of us to be super aggressive at the moment. But I did want to have some New Zealand Canadian exposure because I feel that this pair is trying to come out of a descending wedge. There's like two descending wedges, right? And obviously above 87.60, I'd be more likely to just add to a long right here. Okay, so it's just something that I'm kind of I'm already nibbling, and I want to buy a little bit more if crude oil continues to weaken here and we start. And I think if you see stock sell off, it might also help. But anyway, technically, I think it looks like it's trying to bottom, and I don't mind hanging on to a New Zealand Canadian long for a while. It's just something I was thinking about, and wanted to make sure that I brought it to your attention as well. We were also looking at the daily sentiment index, and let me see if I can pull that up for you guys really quick. Here's the DSI. This is the most recent one. Volatility is at 14. NASDAQ's at 85. S&P's at 85. I'm assuming the NASDAQ DSI is going to be closer to 86, 88, 87, somewhere in that neighborhood. And volatility is, it's come up a little bit, but I think volatility is going to stay, fairly weak. And so those become at risk for a bigger reversal, I think, as we get into this week. We remember it's obviously jobs report this week. We have some European inflation data coming out, so there might be reasons for the market to move. But I think that if you are long risk, you're long like NASDAQ, you're long the S&P. That elevated level and daily sentiment index is also something that should garner a little bit of attention as well. Aussie's weaker. I think it's trading heavy. I put in a pattern in play today. So if you guys, are interested in a, bear flag pattern, I think, this is a bear flag pattern coming out of a triangle. So, I think we can make it down towards, sub 74-cent level. And all we need this week, this week really for the Aussie to sell off is a strong jobs report. A strong jobs report. That's going to be my trade of this is going to be the trade that I'm really focused on, is short Aussies. And if you can get yourself into a decent position right now, being on the short side of the Aussie dollar, then on a strong economic data, strong jobs report, the Aussie might actually sell off a little bit more aggressively as the market starts to think that the Fed will, pare back its bond purchases and really start to think about tapering, especially as we head into Jackson Hole in the next couple of months. So those are my initial thoughts, guys. It's pretty quiet out there. The dollar Mexican peso is still trading heavy. It's still below 20. The dollar Canadian looks pretty good. I think the dollar Canadian looks like we can make it at least to 24 and maybe back up to challenge this trend line again. But this flag is trying to play out. I think it looks decent. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. I've got to get on a couple phone calls and do a few things. So have a great trading session. I'll see you guys in the chat room. For those of you that aren't in the chat rooms, I'll see you guys a little bit later. So have a great one. Thanks. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Lorraine. Bye, Laura. And bye, everybody else. Austin, see you guys. Okay.